Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session, checking in with Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. Very happy to be here, and hopefully you have seen great things today, and you will continue to see great things during the day. My name is Ásgeir Gunnarsson. I'm originally from Iceland, but like Andrea before me, who was in the session before me, I have moved to Denmark since. This is my handle on Twitter if you want to get in touch, but there are also contact information that you will get here on the next slide. So I've been doing this, mostly BI related work for many years. I've also led the Icelandic Power BI group and the Icelandic PAS group, which is now I guess the Icelandic SQL group. I wrote co-authored a book on Microsoft's Power BI administration, and as I said, here are my contact information that you can get hold of later on if you want, and if you want to get in touch and talk about any of these. But that is not why we're here. We are here to talk about the fun stuff. So why did I do a session on exactly these things here? So I was very intrigued to try to demonstrate to people how to broaden. So I'm from the BI background. I'm a BI professional. Been doing that for many years. But I felt I saw a potential in the rest of the Power platform, and I wanted to introduce people to it. How do you get started without having to put in a massive effort? So I wanted to show how easy it is to get started with the tools, and also how easy it is to work with them together. And I also, at the time when I created this, I needed some practice in Power Apps and Flow, as it was called back then, but called Power Automate now. So that was the background. So what are we going to do? We are actually going to build this all in this 45 minutes. We are going to do the whole thing. There's no cheating, or almost no cheating. So we're just going to go through and build it. And to do it, we are going to use 3 tools. Well, 4. We're going to use Excel as well, but we're going to use 3 tools mainly. We're going to use Power Apps, which is a simple, and I put simple in quotes, way to create apps for mobile phones or computers. It's simple, if you want to create simple things. If you want to create very advanced things, it can be very advanced, but that is like with all tools. But a great thing about Power Apps, it is very intuitive. It's very GUI friendly, and there's a lot of existing templates that you can start working from. We are then going to use Power Automate because we want to put off a process. So when something happens in the app, we want to initiate a process, and Power Automate is a tool to create those data flows and processes, and it's great for it. There's also a lot of templates within Power Automate. And in my opinion, Power Automate is probably the tool within the Power Platform that can help you create value fastest of all the tools. It's very easy, and it's very easy to create value very fast. There's a lot of processes in every organization that can be automated or semi-automated in many ways. And then the last tool we're going to use is Power BI to visualize it. We're not going to do anything fancy in Power BI today. We're simply just showing that these things can work together. So we're just going to create a very simple Power BI report, and we are going to visualize the data that we pulled from Power Apps. So these are the tools. So now let's talk about what we are going to do. The goals of this is to create an app where a user can register their locations, where they are at that exact moment, using Power Apps. So we're going to have some kind of a button that people press, and then they will get the where they are. We want to write that information to an Excel file. And the reason why I chose Excel file is because it's very simple when you're doing a demo in 45 minutes. It could be a database, but it's just more complicated. And I know if I was doing this for production, I was probably going to do it in something else in Excel. But Excel is just really handy when we are doing these things live on stage. So we're going to write the information about the placement, who the person was who pressed the button, and what the date did they press it, and we can write that to an Excel file, and then we're going to put on a map in Power BI, and we're going to show those locations. So in Power Apps, there should be a button that the user presses. When the user presses the button, it should retrieve the location and should write it to the screen. There's no practical reason why I write it to the screen. It's just so you guys can see it, so we are not so it's not just some kind of black magic happening behind the scenes. And then we will have a submit button that will trigger the flow. It does not have to be 2 different buttons, but again, so it is to make it more visible what is happening. in Power Automate, we're going to create a flow that will take those inputs from Power Apps, and we're going to write it to the Excel file on OneDrive. Again, it's on OneDrive, so to make the process of the data set, so the update of the data set, we're going to make that easier without using a gateway or anything like that. And then the flow will run an update on the Power BI dataset to refresh it. So the theory is that you press the button, and then few seconds later it's going to be visible on the Power BI report. That's the theory. Now let's see if it works. And in Power BI, very, very simple, just a map and a table. That's it. And it's going to be published to powerbi.com, and we're going to see if it refreshes straight away. Okay, so that was what we are going to do. And very, very simple diagram. Power Apps a button. Flow will update the Excel file, which is consumed by Power BI, and we're going to refresh the dataset with Flow as well. So how are we going to do this? And I have a description of exactly how we're going to do it. So with step by step guides on how to do it. We are not going to read that during this session. So I'm just going to go out of my slides, and I'm going to go into doing things now. But for your sake, everything is in the slide. So let's start in Excel. I have actually saved this file to a specific place, so we're just saving a little bit of time. It's already been saved to a Power BI, sorry, to a OneDrive folder. What we need a place to store the data. So I'm gonna create a an Excel file with a table that we're gonna put things in. So I'm gonna say we're gonna have a column called name. We're gonna have a column called location. We're going to have another column called latitude or longitude. I don't have to have both the location and latitude and longitude, but I just feel like it's fun. And we're going to have one called date. So let me see to the location. Yes, there's one. And I'm going to put in just some demo data in here just so that we have something when we create the dataset in Power BI, just so we can refresh it without having to break off the process. So I'm just going to put my own name here. I'm going to put my address in here, in my old address here in Iceland. Let me just put in the latitude and longitude. I have that. I don't remember that. So so when you're doing addresses for Power BI to work with, it's really, really good if you can have a full address, because that's very easy for the Bing machine behind the scene to work with. You don't have to, but it will make it much easier. Otherwise, you would have separate columns that have address and town and postal code and all that. This is a full address of where I used to live, and I'm gonna put in today's date, and that's the 19th of February 2021. Okay, so this is my demo data. So I'm gonna create a table from this, and the reason why I want to create a table for this is just because it will make it much easier for Power BI, for Power Automate to insert into this if there's a table, because it's a defined table with defined columns. That will make it much easier for Power Automate to work with. So it's this. This is the area. It has headers. That's it. And I just want to go in here and I want to call it something else than table 1. I'm gonna call this our platform bootcamp Italy. Very nice and easy name. Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna save this. I don't have to do anything about it. This, of course, is auto save on, so I'm just gonna close this Excel file. And now I'm gonna head over to my my OneDrive. So this is my OneDrive here in the browser, and the reason why I'm in OneDrive in browser now is because I want to get the link or I want to get the placement of this file in OneDrive for business, so I can can refresh this without using a gateway. So I'm just going to go to the dot here. So this is the file. I'm going to go to the dot here. I'm going to go to the details tab here, which has the details of the file. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to copy the path here. I copy the path here. It is the path to the file that will work in Power BI. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Power BI, and I'm going to go to get data. So this is just preparation. This is not the cool stuff that will come in a short while. And I'm going to say web. I'll take the web connector. I'm going to point it to my Excel file. Go say OK. OK, that was not what I had wanted. Let me just go and do it again. What the hell? Not found. That's interesting. It is here. Let me just refresh this one here to make sure that the file is here. I am in the OneDrive. That's not what I needed when I have short time. Sorry.
No problem. It's a demo effect as always.
Yeah, the demo cards, they are maybe. This is. Let me just. So I'm just wondering what could be the issue of why it doesn't find it. Boom, boom, boom. I'm just gonna try one I did a few days ago, just in case. See if there's anything weird about this one, or if it's my Power BI that is No, it just does not try. It does not want it. It's because it's doing some silly things in here. I must admit, I'm just not sure what's going on here. Let me just give me just a second here. I'm gonna do another one here. So I'm gonna do SharePoint. So let me. I'm gonna try putting it on SharePoint. I'm sorry guys for the demo guys are not with me today. I'm just gonna try to put it here on SharePoint. See if that will help. Instead of being on OneDrive. It's the same technology behind the scenes, so it should not be any difference. Well, it is a difference.
Yes, it seems there's a difference.
Yeah, so it's something to do with my OneDrive. Sorry about that, but okay, let's it will work now. Okay, so I'm connected to it. I'm just gonna say this is the table. I want to connect to the table, not to the sheet. Although it wouldn't make any difference in this case, but I just wanna do this properly. I'll go to transform data. That's what because I always go to transform data. I just want to make sure that my columns are correct and they look correct. Everything, Power BI changed the type correctly. So I'm just going to say close and apply. So now I'm just gonna, I'm gonna say. Just gonna, before we go, I'm just gonna make sure that Power BI understands that the latitude and longitude are actually latitude and longitude. So I'm just gonna tell Power BI that this is latitude and this is longitude. It will just help Bing Maps make a sense out of this. And this one here is a place. I'm not gonna use. I'm gonna use the latitude and longitude because it works very well. And I'm just gonna say let me do latitude and longitude, and don't do any kind of average. Don't summarize it. Latitude and longitude, and we're just gonna put the date as the size. So I'm gonna have this map here. It just has 1 point here in this address because that's the only thing we have in the data. I'm just going to put a table down here with the date and the address, and I'm just going to keep it like this. This is basically it. So I'm not going to do anything more fancy than this. The main thing is that we want to make everything work together. That's what we are aiming for. So we don't care if it looks ugly. So I'm just going to publish this. Just let me just do the save here. Sorry. Let me see. No, of course, it's going to be interesting what. So here we have it. You'll select it. And while this is publishing, we are going to go back to. So this is done publishing. So let me just go back to my browser then. Just go to Power BI. Let me see. If I refresh this, we should have one in here. We have a data set and we have the report. Now we just want to make sure the data set can reach the file, the source file. I'm going to use OAuth authentication because this is within the Microsoft 365 tenant, and this is organizational data. This is on my own SharePoint, so I'm not afraid of that. I'm just going to log in with my account. So now we should be able to go back here, and we should be able to see this was refreshed, 12/17, and if I refresh it now, it's 12/18. So this actually does work, and we can see that it is here. Everything is as supposed to be. Okay, so that was the basics. Now we have the basic. We have the SharePoint file. We have the Excel file, and we have the Power BI. Now let's do the integration, do the fun stuff. So to do that, I'm going to go to Power Apps, and this is where we're going to start our create our app. If you have not tried out Power Apps before, it's very intuitive up to a certain extent. So the first thing when you start it, it's very, very easy, but there are things that it can be difficult. For example, if you want to call custom REST APIs, or if you want to integrate with something that is maybe not out of the box. But the great thing about it is that there are hundreds of things that you can integrate with out of the box that makes it easier. One big thing to be aware of when you're using Power Apps is that the connectors that you use, so connecting to SharePoint or Excel or SQL Server or whatever, if you want to get some data into your app, is that some of them are premium connectors and some of them are non-premium connectors. If you're using non-premium connectors like Excel and SharePoint, it's not gonna, your Office 365 license, if I think it's E3 or higher, will be sufficient as a license. If you want to use SQL Server connector or any kind of other custom connectors or a bunch of other different connectors, they are premium connectors, meaning that you will need to buy a specific license for everyone that uses the app. So just be aware of that, if you want to use it. So I'm just gonna go to create an app. You can start from create here. You can go to whatever apps you have now and use new apps here, or you can simply where I was at the home, I can create click here. I'm gonna go from here because that gives me the best options that allow me to show you the steps most easier. So you have basically 3 different types of apps in Power Apps. You have canvas apps, you have model-driven apps, and you have portals. Canvas apps are apps that you have a canvas that you can paint whatever you want on them. So they are most flexible, but also most difficult in a way that you have to do everything. So it's just an empty canvas and you can do whatever you want with it. Model-driven are different in a way that they start with the data. You connect to the data first, and the data needs to be in the Dataverse or yeah, so the engine, so maybe the storage behind Power Apps and Dynamics. So if the data is there, you can start from the data with model-driven app, which will then take the data in before you start, and then you can model on top of that your app. You can mix them together, so you can include a model-driven app within Canvas app, but not the other way around. Portal is the third one, and that's if you want to have apps that are exposed to the public. So Canvas app and model-driven apps, everyone needs to be logged in to be able to use the apps. They need to be logged into the same organization as you are, and then they, license check and everything is done there, and then you can use them. Portal apps are different. They are more aimed at if you want to put this onto the internet, where you can be licensed by number of clicks or different ways you can do that. So that's if you want to go down that road, you want to use portals. Otherwise, you use Canvas or model-driven apps. I'm going to use a Canvas app because I want to start from scratch. I want to show this, and our data is not in the Dataverse. It's in our Excel file. So where do you want to start? We are here is the next step. So we said we want to do a new one, but we still have an option to start with data. And Common Data Services is what now is called the Dataverse. Do you want to get something from OneDrive or something from SQL Server or something from SharePoint? It will just help you start with with the data. It's not model-driven, but it still will help you start with the data. Or you can just start with a template, or you can start with a blank app. There are a bunch of different templates in in Power Apps that can help you create apps much faster, because you can start with a template and then delete and add things as you want. I'm going to do a blank app, and I'm going to do a tablet layout. So tablet layout is basically a widescreen, while a phone layout is portrait. And the reason why I want to use tablet layout is just because it's simpler and easier for you to see when it's on my screen. Both of these, tablet and phone layout, you can interact with them both on computer, or you can interact with them on mobile. So it doesn't change that fact, even though you choose one or the other. So this is just a startup screen. I'm going to skip it. And now I'm into Power Apps. I'm into the Maker, Power Apps Maker, which is the tool you need to use to create Power apps. It's, as you see, it's completely empty. I have nothing in here. I have, on my left, I have a view of everything, all the content I have in here. So I have a screen, one screen. I can have multiple screens in my Power Apps if I want that. But I only have one at the moment. And then I have up here, I have actions. I can do things. I can insert things. I can view things, and I can add actions. So we're going to start simply by adding a button, because that's what we said before. We want a button that can show, fetch the user's location. So I'm going to add a button, and Power Apps will just simply put it somewhere. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make the font of the it's something bigger than that, 36, something like that. And I'm going to say click here for location. Okay, so now I have a button. It doesn't do anything. It's just there. So won't help us a lot, but it's a start. Now in the Power Apps, because it's a mobile, it's made for mobile, but it's an application. It can actually fetch the device's location. It can only fetch the latitude and longitude. It cannot fetch the address. So if we want, we can very easily fetch the latitude and longitude. So let's try that. Now we're not going to associate with the button. I'm just going to put in a label here. A label is simply something as the name says, it's a label you put on the screen. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to say 26. So at the moment, this label will show you text because the text of the label is equal to text. Everything in Power Apps, you have when you have an object in here in Power Apps, that object has a bunch of different properties. So for example, this label has all these different properties, and each property can be a constant in this case. So it's like a property equals text, and you can have other properties that equal something else, but they can also equal functions. So you can have a list of functions you can in here, or you can simply just write your own in here if you want. So I could change this to something else. So I can say, latitude is and then I can append something here, like a code, or I can write, simply some code to get something. Now, they always claim that Power Apps is code-free, but it's not code-free. It's code light, I would say, instead of saying code-free. So be ready to write some code at least, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It depends a lot on what you're trying to do, and it can be completely code-free, of course, but most of the time it has some code. Well, I'm gonna append here to this text and the latitude, and in Power BI, in Power Apps, there is a bunch of built-in functions that you can get to. Most of them you can find in this FX here, but there's a big list to scroll through. But there's also a good documentation of what it can do. And one of the things it can do is location. And you can see as soon as I start writing, Power Apps will narrow down the list. It's very similar if you're used to Power BI. It's very similar to that when Power BI narrows down the DAX functions. For example, Power Apps will also do it here. So I want to get hold of that one called location. But that's not, Power location will give me a record. And a record is multiple columns basically. So I cannot just put it in like this. I need to say what column do you want from that record. So I can say dot, and then it will show me, okay, what do you want? The altitude, the latitude, and the longitude. So this record has 3 different columns. So I can say latitude. Oh, sorry, clicked off it. So this is the latitude where I am at the moment. And then I could say something like, and the longitude is, and then I can add that here. So location dot longitude. So now I have my latitude and my longitude. So that is nice. So I really don't need anything more than this, but because I want to actually get the address. I don't want to get the latitude, longitude. I want to get the address of the people. And the reason why I want to do that is simply because I like to. Nobody can interpret this on a screen, latitude, longitude, and because I can, and I want to show you how you can use connectors in Power Apps as well. So this is nice, but I want to get the actual location. And to do that, you will actually need to add a connection to a external service. And in our case, we want to use the external service. It has a built-in connector, but it's still an external server, and it's called Bing Maps. And for any of you who have ever worked with Bing Maps, you might know that there is a developer program on Bing Maps. So you can sign up for the Bing Maps API. And if you sign up for the Bing Maps API, you can use it to call it. It has a free option which will allow you to, in a development purposes, allow you to call it. I can't remember 1,000 times a day or something, or 1,000 times a month. I can't remember. It's very useful for mine. But if you want to use it professionally, you might have to pay for it. Depends on how often you need to call it. But we're going to use that. I have already signed up for the REST API. I have gotten a key, an API key. So I don't need to do that. If I was signing up if I was using this for the very first time, it will ask me for the key. And if I want to see if I have connection already, I can go back to my starting point in Power Apps. I can go to connections here, and here I see I have already a connection to Bing Maps, and in it I could edit it, and I will see there is an API key that I have already put in here. I don't want to do it again. So the connection already exists, meaning that I don't need to log into this one again. So you only need to do that once. But if you change, if your API key changes or something like that, you can go on and switch it out. But the Bing Maps connection is not in my Power Apps. If I go to View and Data Sources, I will see there's no data in your app. But I can add data. I can add data by going to this Add Data or clicking the Add Data before. I can see there is nothing in my environment now. But if I click on this one here, I will see all the connectors that I have used lately. So these are the connectors I have used lately. If I want to get, see all the connectors that exist, I can go to See All Connectors, and it will give me a list of all the connectors that exist. I can also use the search here to search for whatever connector I want. There's a lot of connectors in here, and like I say, some of them, all of those that have a star next to it, they are premium connectors. Those who don't have a star, they are not premium connectors. So all the office stuff is not premium, but all the enterprise stuff is actually premium, meaning that you will need to pay. So I'm going to add the Bing Maps connector to my app, and say I have a connection to it already that is established with the API key. If not, I would have had a pop-up here on the right side. It would have said, do you want to add your API key? And if you do that, the connection is established, and then it's in the connection list that I showed you before. So now I have Bing Maps in my app, but it doesn't do anything yet. It's just I have created I've added the connection to my app. That's it. Now I want to add it so that when a person clicks this button, it will call the Bing Maps API and it will return me with the location. So each button has a property called onSelect, which will tell it what to do when you call onSelect. So I am gonna say false is not what I want to do when someone clicks the button. What I want to do, I want to fetch the location and I want to put it into a variable that I can use later on. So I'm going to use the function called set, because that will set a variable. And I'm going to open the parentheses, and I'm going to create a variable. I'm just going to call that my location. So it's just a name I give it. Doesn't have to be, can be whatever you want. And then I want to say, okay, what value do you want to put into that my location variable? So now I need to call the Bing Maps, and when you're calling a connection that you have in your Power Apps, it's just the name of the connection and then dot and then the methods that the connection has. So I want to use Bing Maps because that's the name of the connection, and dot, and this is the methods that it offers this connection: get location by address, get location by point, get map, and get map version 2, and get route. I want to get connection location by point because I have points, I have latitude, longitude, but I need the address. So that's what I want to choose, that one here. And now it just asks me, okay, give me latitude, let me give longitude, and then I'm going to give you address back. So I can use the same one as I did before. Location dot latitude, sorry. Location dot longitude. And that's basically it. It doesn't need anything else. So if someone presses the button, Bing Maps web service is called with the two parameters, returning an address, which is going to be put into my location variable. Okay, let's test this out. So I'm just going to insert, a label. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to drag it down here. I want to insert a label here, and I want to make the font size bigger. And I want to say this one here should be the result of my the call from my location variable, and I want to have the name, so basically the result of it, of the variable. And of course nothing is here because nobody has clicked the button, so nothing is here. So we can test this out by going to the play button here, and if I click on the button here, it should now come with it. If you were doing this the very first time you did this, there will be a pop-up here. Do you want this app to know your location? And you need to give consent for it. So this is where I am at the moment. I'm in Reykjavik in Iceland, and at this, So the very interesting fact here is I'm not exactly at this address. So I'm actually at the address number 71, and the reason why it comes 77 is because my computer is connected to a network that has a location somewhere in 77, basically. So if you're running this on a computer, you might get incorrect results or very limited. I did this once at the Microsoft head offices here in Iceland, and I ran this, and it came with an address in Ireland. I was very surprised, but the reason was because they were VPN'd into Ireland, their network, because the regional is in Ireland. So that was So beware of that when you're doing this on a computer, you might not get it 100% correct. But if you are doing this on a mobile, you will get it correct. So I want to add one label more. because I want to get who the user is that's logged in. I'm going to say this one 26 as well. And I want to say user, which is one of the functions that is built in, dot full name. I can also do the image and I can do fun things here. So this is, of course, it's me, but if someone else runs this app, this is going to be their name here. Okay, so I have the latitude and longitude, I have the address, and I have the person. Now I just need to put it into my Excel file. So I'm going to add a new button because I want that to happen when someone presses the button. I don't have to. I can just have it all happen in one button. I just want to have it more clear what I'm doing. So I'm just going to call that one submit, and I'm going to say this one is 36 as well. Okay, so now I have a button, but now I need to tell Power Apps, when I click on this button, I want you to run a Power Automate process. I don't want you to try to do anything yourself. I want to run a Power Automate process. There is a new connection type in Power Apps actually that is called Power BI. So I could technically refresh the Power BI dataset from here, and using some web services, I might be able to update the Excel file, but I just don't want to, don't want to dive into that now. I'm not sure if I can, but I probably with some coding. But the wonderful thing about Power Automate is it's integrated and it doesn't need any coding. So I'm going to go to Action, and here is an action called Power Automate. So if I click on that, it's going to show me all the different, all the different Power Automates flows that I have created that have a Power Apps button as a starting point. So these are all I have done, but I want to create a new one, so I go to the bottom and say create new flow. And now I come in. Now I have opened Power Automate, and it took me to there, and it offers me to do new flows that start with a Power Apps button. The weird thing about it is that recently they did some kind of a change that, before when I did this, I had always had the option of having a template that had a Power Apps button, and then the rest was up to me. Here they have all kind of other, teams and SharePoint and SQL and all, Gmail, all kind of things in here that I don't want. And if I click one of these and start deleting from it, it's going to cause havoc. So I'm just going to create a new one from scratch. And I want to do a instant Cloudflow of something that is triggered manually with a button, basically. And I want to call this flow Power Platform Bootcamp. I want the trigger to be Power Apps. So I can create these two completely separately, but for reverse Microsoft has unfortunately they changed this. So this is the way I want it. This is, it has a Power Apps button as a start, but now I have completely free option to do whatever I want. So first of all, I add a new step. I want to write all the data into my OneDrive or my Excel on OneDrive. So I'm gonna say I want to write into Excel. And Excel Online Business OneDrive, I'm very confident that it will work on SharePoint as well. I really hope so. It has a bunch of different things you can do. One of the delete a row, get a row, all these different things. But one of the things is add a row into a table. So if I click add a row into a table, now I have a container here that will add a row into a table, and now I just need to tell Power Automate where is that table, what is that So I'm going to go to here and I'm going to say. So I can see OneDrive for Business, but I also see my SharePoint, which I'm really happy about. So let me just double check where it was. It was in the Power BI. I'm sorry about this. It was in my Power BI. Now let's see if we can find it. This is really yes. Whew. Okay. So now it says, okay, you have this particular Excel file that lays on this particular SharePoint site. What is the table in that file called? So we know what kind of fields you want. So the table is called Power Platform Bootcamp Italy. I'm going to click on that. And now because the Power Automate has read the file, it knows it needs those 5 different columns. And for the name column, as soon as I click in it, I can write something here, but that would be silly, right? But I can also use this on the right here, so it can say you want dynamic content, for example, ask in Power Apps, meaning that this will be supplied by Power Apps, or I can write an expression. Now the name I want to come from Power Apps, so I'm going to say ask in Power Apps. So it simply writes a creates a variable here that will be available in Power Apps to put data into. Location, that should also come in Power Apps, but you see there's no add in Power Apps button right now here. It's only this one here is here, but for this caught me off guard when I first did it. But there's a see more here. If I click that, ask in Power Apps comes up. It's very silly, I think. So ask in Power Apps, latitude, see more, ask in Power Apps, longitude, see more, ask in Power Apps, and then the date. I'm gonna instead of getting the date from Power Apps, I'm gonna get that from Power Automate. So I'm gonna write an expression here. I'm gonna use the format date time. And I'm going to say UTC now because I'm in UTC, and I'm going to format this as year, month, day. So I don't know, sorry about this. So I'm just going to create this expression here. It's, just giving me a date, and it's just an example. There's a bunch of different expressions that you can find down here. Say OK. So now I have all these different things. Some of it comes from Power Apps, some of it comes from the Power Automate itself. Now I'm going to add a new step, and this step is going to be Power BI, because now I want to refresh when it's finished writing it. I wanted to refresh the Power BI dataset. So I'm going to say refresh the Power BI dataset, and because I'm logged in with the same user as I'm in the Power BI and Power Apps for that, it will also just know of all the workspaces I have access to, and it will who is the user? Yes. I'm just going to double check if I'm a different user here. Sorry about this, people. I shouldn't have the same profile picture on both my users. That is not a good idea. So here, okay. So let me see if I need to. I might need to somehow refresh this. I'm gonna get rid of this and put it back in here. What I needed when I'm short on time. Sorry about that. So now hopefully it will see that workspace. Yes, it does. Fantastic. And this is a data set. So now it will, add a row into it. It will refresh the data set. Now, what my problem is here is that the OneDrive for Business takes a little while to be saved. So I'm going to add a small one here. I know I'm running out of time, but I'm going to be as fast as I can. So I'm going to use a delay, and I'm going to say I'm going to delay for 30 seconds. So hopefully that will be enough, meaning that when the Power App Automate writes into the Excel file, it will wait for 30 seconds before it will refresh the dataset, and hopefully the Excel file will be saved in between, because it takes just a few seconds to be saved. But this is what I wanted to do here in Power Automate. I'm just going to save it. The button is going to, sorry, the flow is going to be called Power Automate Bootcamp, the Power Platform Bootcamp. I'm going to say save. And when it's done saving, now I can go back to Power Apps, and now it's actually in the list here. So I want to have my button selected, and there's no flows associated with the button. But if I now go on and select that new flow I created, it's going to now be associated with that button, and Power Apps is going to add this, Power Platform Bootcamp.run, which is basically run a flow, and it's associated that with the button. And now I just need to supply it with all these different variables. So name, location, latitude, longitude. So user.fullname. comma my location dot name, comma location dot latitude, comma location dot longitude. So now if I run my app here, if I click this one here, it's not going to change the address because I already had done this. If I had, if a user opened this for the first time, the address is not here, but it's just because I clicked the button before now. And now I can click this one here, submit button, which now runs the flow. So what I did not do, because we are lack of time, is that I did not, make Power Automate answer back to Power Apps. I can't do that, so that it would get an answer. I'm done now, but it hasn't done that, because there was just too much, time to go into that. So I have pressed it. So we see if the refresh rate has been, if the refresh has been done. We can, while we do that, we can look at the Excel file here. Hopefully that should show 2 lines of data. Yes, so now we have 2 lines of data in our Excel file. That was nice. And then we don't have a refresh. Oh, it's because of 30 seconds delay. So it's getting there. So now we have a new refresh for the data set. So if I click on the file, it still has only 1 here. Sometimes I need to, it's a cached. So maybe the 30 second wasn't enough. Damn it. So sometimes this happened for me, sometimes it doesn't. That's simply the so click this again. So it's simply that the 30 seconds that it waits, it's not enough for OneDrive to actually commit the Excel file. So this would not happen if you had a SQL server or something like that underneath. But in 30 seconds we should see it now, because I ran it again, and then the last one should pop in, because it's usually not that long that the time it takes for it to. So it's still 47. So it's running the update now. It's done. And now we have 2 dots in here. So one is here and 1 is here. And you can see that, yeah, and 2 lines over here. So I am out of time, and I am also done with what I wanted to show you. So if you want, and I really hope you want, we really need your evaluation. So please scan the QR code or use the link in the chat to get to the evaluation and evaluate our session. It helps me, it helps the organizers. So really hope you do that.
Thank you very much, Asgeir. We have some question for you, if you can. We have some minutes left in order to answer some questions.
Okay,
so
yeah.
The first one is if you can describe deeply the licensing of, I think, Automate, Power BI, and everything you have shown so far. You have already did some explanation before, but maybe we can go deeper.
Yeah. So so the licensing is you will always need a license for Power BI. So either you need to have a Power BI Pro license, Power BI Pro premium per user, or you need to work within a premium capacity. But then if you want to create something in Power BI, you need a license. That's always like that. And in Power Apps and Power Automate, you also need the license, but it comes with certain Office 365 subscriptions. So if you have a E3 or higher, you will get a Power Apps and Flow license to work with other Office 365 components. So SharePoint, Exchange, if you want to send an email or something like that, that will all work within the license of your Office 365. If you want to use any of the premium connectors, that's both in Power Automate and in Power Apps, the same connectors are premium in both. You will need to license the specific app or the specific flow. So if you create an app, use a premium connector, you want 100 people to use it, you will need to buy 100 licenses of something like $10, $15 per person. So you can buy different licenses. You can buy one license per app, or you can buy license per user for 5 apps or something like that. So it depends on how you want to look at it, but you will always need to buy a license. If you license your Power App and it uses Power Automate, the license will be transferred, so you don't need to license both. So if you're using the Power Automate to run a process that is triggered from Power Apps, you just need to license your app, and then the license will be transferable over to the Power Automate. If you use them separately, you will of course need to license them separately. Hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yes, pretty clear and complete. Let's go for another. That is, are you limited to 8 refresh if you have Power BI Pro, even if you start the refresh with Power Automate?
Yes. Unfortunately, I should have mentioned that. Yes, you are. It will simply stop working. It will run. It looks like it works, but it will just stop refreshing after 8 a day.
Okay, in that case, so you have to implement something in Power App to get an answer from Power Automate or something like that.
Yeah. So, or you would need to do something like that, or maybe this, you need to collect it together and only refresh the data set, 8 times a day. So you collect the data, but you don't refresh the data set. It depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Perfect.
Yeah. I really like using Power Automate to refresh the data set that are based on a file that changes occasionally, because then you don't need to have scheduled refresh. You just refresh it. But if you more than 8 times, it's gonna fail.
Perfect. We have another question. You have shown and you have mentioned OAuth 2 when you were connecting to your OneDrive folder, and someone is asking what is that kind of authentication.
So, because when you're working with Power Apps or Power Automate, and then Power BI you're always logged into your Office 365 account, and that simply is already logged in, and so that's why it can figure out all your SharePoint site, all your OneDrive, all your Power BI. It just knows because you're in that same space. If you want to connect to your Gmail, or you want to connect to your a SQL server or something, you need to then log in specifically for those. But if you're within the Microsoft 365 environment, you're already logged in.
Perfect. And just one last question is, I think it's general, so we will see. Someone is asking what is Dataverse. He has heard about that, but he didn't understand exactly what it is.
Yeah, so Dataverse is basically the storage behind Power Apps and Dynamics. It used to be called. So let me just go in here. I remember the names. That's not so bad. So it used to be called Common Data Service, but they have changed the name now, renamed it to Dataverse. So it's a storage. When you put stuff into that storage from either Power Apps or from Dynamics, which are things that work with it, then the service will decide if it should go into a SQL server or a data lake or whatever. It's like an intelligence, a layer in between whatever underneath storage is and your own storage. You can create entities and you can basically tables, and it's very cool stuff if you work with Dynamics. If you don't work with Dynamics, it's maybe less useful.
Okay. Thank you very much. I cannot see any other question, and so we are in timing, and it's time for lunch for everyone. And I would like to say thank you very much for being with us, and for having two sessions with us, because I know you have also a session in the room 4, so big effort for our conference. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being all mine. So hopefully you have a great rest of the conference today.